I know yesterday I said I wanted more news, but I did not mean this much. It has been a crazy last 24 hours if you're a US soccer fan, and I'm going to be talking about everything a little bit more later, but right now I want to talk about the new coach that we have for the January camp. It is Anthony Hudson. He's going to be managing the squad for those camps, and it's not going to be a long term thing, at least probably not. And he's been an assistant for the US for a while, and before that, people aren't too high on him because he had a very bad run with the Colorado Rapids. And while that is true, I think there's a bit more to Anthony Hudson than that. And I want to get into his career a little bit before we get into all the Gregg Berhalter and Reyna stuff a bit later. So Anthony Hudson was the assistant for the U.S. team, but before that, he was born in the U.S., but his dad was a former England international who was there in the U.S. playing for the early Seattle Sounders, like the ones who were playing as Pele. And after that, he moved to West Ham. He moved back to England. He went to West Ham. He was in the youth system at the same time as Frank Lampard, Rio Ferdinand, Joe Cole, and Michael Carrick, like that really good West Ham youth movement they had there. And he understandably didn't make the cut, and he moved to the Netherlands. And after that, he got kind of homesick, and that really ended his playing career. But he got into coaching, and he went back to the United States to coach in the USL. After that, he moved to Tottenham as a reserve coach, and he was possibly working with Harry Kane. I checked the timeline, and he might have been working with him. And after that, he got his first real managing job, managing Newport in the conference, the fifth tier of England. He was endorsed pretty heavily by Harry Redknapp, the Tottenham manager at the time, but it really didn't work out at Newport. After that, he moved to Bahrain to coach the U23 team there, like the Bahrain national U23 team. He's brought in by their manager, Peter Taylor, who is a former Premier League and England youth coach. He stayed there even after Taylor was fired and took over for the senior team a year after the youth role, and he had some pretty mild success at Bahrain. After that, he got the New Zealand job, and he had a lot of success in Oceania, but that's kind of a given for a New Zealand boss. And they looked good in matches abroad, but they didn't really get results, and he resigned after losing to Peru in the Intercontinental Playoff, failing to qualify for the 2018 World Cup. After that, he took over the Colorado Rapids, where he just did a poor job and got fired after criticizing his players. Soon after that, he was named the US U20 coach, but due to COVID, he never really got a chance to do anything before becoming an assistant for the national team. I think it's an interesting choice because he's had some good and bad results throughout his career. His two international jobs have been a marginal success, but his club runs have been bad. Newport and Colorado were awful. And even his USL run was pretty mixed. He got Coach of the Year one year, and then he was finishing last in the league the next one. I will say, though, he's an extremely young coach, and I feel like he could do well for us in the future. But that's more in the future. I would want him to test himself in Europe. He's had some offers by some like championship level teams in the past, and I would like to see him take those, go over there, see how good he can be managing at one of those levels. And after that, who knows? Because I think there is some promising things there. He has looked good at a variety of levels, and especially internationally, but he is not ready. That being said, as an interim boss, I'm fine with it. Like, we weren't going to get too many too many people. I mentioned before, like Pellegrino Matarazzo. He was just fired. He might have been available. I would have liked that. Caleb Porter has been a good MLS coach. I don't think he would be much better than Burhalter. Probably marginally better, but not by much. So I'm fine with just putting in our assistant, having him manage for a little bit, and then searching for a better coach for the future. And even if we do well under Hudson, and that includes like winning the Nations League and winning the Gold Cup, I really wouldn't look to keep him at the moment. I still think he is an exciting coach. I would be a bit excited about him for the future. There is a lot of positives, but I don't think he's ready for this right now. Okay, so on to Gregg Berhalter. And if you aren't aware, what happened yesterday is Gregg Berhalter put out a statement saying that he had been coerced into revealing that while he was a freshman at North Carolina, he got into an argument with his future wife, and it ended with him getting physical with her, kicking her, is what he said. And that has been just a crazy statement in its own. And today it was revealed that it was Giovanni Reyna's mother, it appears at the time, who told that to the U.S. Soccer Federation. It's still unclear if she just mentioned this in passing or said this in retaliation for Gregg Berhalter going on a tirade against Gio, but it's out there now, and it's a pretty heavy subject. I will say, purely on the field, it appears that Reyna was not involved in this at all, so I don't think this should affect his status. Or Gio Reyna, I should say, was not involved in this at all. But it is something that needs to be talked about. I think that Burhalter should and would be fired. I should mention that I would have fired him. I would have never hired him, and I would have fired him long ago for his on-the-field performance, and I think that we advanced in the World Cup despite him, not because of him, and he has failed to get the most out of the most talented U.S. squad ever. But that being said, I think after this, he definitely has to go. I think that strictly because it is U.S. Soccer who this is happening to, U.S. Soccer who has a pretty bad history with women's issues, the recent NWSL stuff as well, and having a coach with this past who is also a nepotism hire, I think is a very bad look, and they have to be aware of it. I think he should be fired strictly because of that, and as well, like, we have a young team right now, and people seem to be saying that, like, we should overlook this because he was 18. Well, this is a young team. I argue that Gaga Slonina should have been included in the World Cup squad, and he's 18. Like, are we going to send a message that it's okay for him to do something like that? Like, I don't know. This isn't something that should be normalized, and I it's not okay. Him and his wife seem to have gotten over this, gotten past it, and I don't think it should ruin his life or anything, but I can't see him remaining as the US coach. But let me know what you think. I'm just throwing out my opinion. There's a lot to say about this, and I'm just some guy talking about it. So, yeah, this is what happened. The U.S. has a new coach now, and, I'm still looking forward to the January camp. It's still going to be fun to talk about it, hopefully get some good players on the field. But I think this needs to be addressed, and, yeah, that's all I'll talk about right now. See you.